Welcome, everybody. I'm Santiago Kneeland, and this is The Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. Today, it's an interesting topic. It's more science-y. We're going to be talking about hydroviews. We're diving into the captivating philosophy of Jack Miller, who's accompanying me. He's a creator of Hydroviews and author of Wisdom Accelerators, a survivor, mentor, and longtime student of the Urantia Book. Jack blends science, spirituality, and poetic insight into a refreshing, life-giving perspective on growth and meaning. In this episode, we'll explore the essence of hydroviews, the way water, science, nature, and divine wisdom merge. Understand his mission statement, learn from his experience of surviving cancer, and uncover how wisdom accelerators can spark transformation in all of us. So welcome, Jack. It's a pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome, and we have a lot of things to cover, and especially, I like this topic because, who does not dependent on water on this planet? So I think everybody's related to in a way to water, and especially the take you have on your philosophy is pretty interesting. So, we're gonna be diving into the different aspects of your studies of your philosophy. So, just to start us off, tell us a bit about your story. How did you get to this experience that shaped your understanding of water? How did you connect it with the spirit, and how was your journey to this point?
Yeah, that's kind of an easy one. About 17 years ago, I was blessed with tongue and throat cancer. And, long before that, I had learned to be grateful for everything that ever happened. So I remember real clearly, I cried for 5 or 10 minutes. And then I said, okay, Father, thank you. Help me deal with this. Long story short, I tried to beat it holistically, realized that that wasn't going anywhere. I had a pain in my neck. It was squamous cell carcinoma of the throat. And I ended up going through chemo and radiation. Chemo and radiation just about killed me. I dropped about 40 pounds. I was really weak. And then a friend of mine invited me right after I completed everything to go see the movie What the Bleep. And for
Okay.
those familiar with the movie,
Yeah.
Masaru Emoto's images showed up in a little billboard on the subway. And when I saw those images of water, there was just something in my heart that said, learn all you can about water. So
Okay.
since that date, I have studied, learned, and read about water uh, quite extensively. And that just kind of started the ball rolling. Then a few years after that, actually several years after that, we had the shooting here at Stoneman Douglas High School in South Florida, where I live.
Okay.
And I had done a lot of yoga classes there and done some other activities, and it was right next to where I worked. So I was very familiar with the place and started to do a talk on the Second Amendment we have here in America. And
Okay.
that when I looked at it, I saw that the word rights was treated like an 11th commandment, and the word regulations was treated like an infringement in civil liberties. And I really realized as a reader of the Urantia book that you kind of need three words to describe. They use three words for everything. And as you read the book a lot, you
Okay.
start to write in that same fashion, three words for explanation. And we need the same 3 points for a GPS to work. It's
Exactly.
triangulation.
It comes from the Trinity, from the triad.
Exactly. Uh,
Okay.
so I realized that, okay, what's that third word? And I realized the third word was responsibility. And
Okay.
rights, responsibilities, and regulations are woven throughout my book, Wisdom Accelerators, as the foundations of democracy, the essence of liberty, and the structure of justice. And, so that's kind of the physical side. But on the water side, I realized that there's nothing on this planet that is more abused, not thought about,
Mm-hmm.
and taken for granted than the water that we bathe in, drink in, that makes our atmosphere, that creates all living organisms around us. So that was kind of like the start of it. And then only recently did I discover the fourth phase of water.
Mm-hmm.
And are you familiar with the fourth phase of water?
No, and this is what's interesting because I think everybody knows the three phases, but this fourth one, I think, is what's really revolutionary.
It absolutely is. The fourth phase of water, I like to tell people the reason your heart can pump 60,000 miles of tubing is
Yeah.
not because the heart is so strong and such a badass. It's because the heart starts the action. What happens
Okay.
in the fourth phase of water is that when water touches a hydrophilic or water loving surface, it changes. It becomes H3O2. It's actually a slightly more viscous substance. It expels all impurities, it expels all positive protons. So now this new substance has a negative charge. And what's interesting is, we've all often wondered, how is it the cells produce electricity?
Yeah.
Well, this
Yeah.
this negative charge
Okay.
surrounds all. It is involved in the fourth phase of water. It has a negative charge. Not only does it have a negative charge, it is receives energy or additional charge from all forms of light, from ultraviolet light coming up out of the earth, from sunlight, even from LED and regular incandescent light. It tends to
Okay.
receive more charge. So
It
it's
makes
a
sense
battery that is
on what you were saying about the movie what the bleep that we know. The receptivity. The words and what you're saying. It just brings that image back. On how the water was forming. But please continue what you were saying.
yeah, that negative charge, and then you've got positively charged water right next door to it. Well, we all know that positive and negative are attracted to each other, but there's a
Mm-hmm.
jump that's occurring. What a lot of people don't realize that there are over 200 million water molecules in a single red blood cell.
Okay.
Just think of the scope of that and how it
Yeah.
breaks down. We tend to think of and we can't think that tiny
Yeah.
or that big, right?
It's another reality. Yet just to think of it in those terms, really.
Exactly. Well, now this you got positive and negative, and you get a little bit of push. You start to create a battery. That boom, 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 kind of the same way
Mm-hmm.
these high-speed trains run on magnetic tracks.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 moving
Yeah.
along at a fast pace. That battery is causing movement. A red blood cell is bigger than a capillary. It can't squeeze through a capillary, but it can be pulled through a capillary. You couldn't push it through if the heart were
Okay.
just pushing, but because you've got this electronic motion pulling it, sucking it through like a
Yeah.
vacuum through,
Yeah.
it is able to do that. And the same thing is occurring with plants. The reason water can climb to the tallest top of a redwood tree is not just capillary attraction that would stop it. The flow of water going up in that tree gets really, really heavy when it gets to the top.
Yeah. It's the
But
physics. You can't do without that.
exactly, that is part of the cause of everything life on our planet. In addition, and what really got me started is I studied water. I really realized that okay, I love waterfalls, going to waterfalls, and
Yeah.
whenever and everybody, you go to a waterfall, you're captivated by that turn, that the energy, the
Yeah.
power,
Yeah.
the everything about it is so captivating. And I said, how does water get to the top? I'm up here at 8,000 feet. How does water climb this high up inside the mountain? Gravity says no, it's going to pull it down. And as soon as water escapes the rocks, it does bring it right
Yeah.
down. The springs, the little aquifers that are going, it isn't just the pressure of the water, it's that same fourth phase of water that is causing the magnetism of the water, the electronics in the water to climb all the way up there.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and it does because what you're saying. How can you move all this much amount of water in a body in a tree, in and on the surface, and what do you call this? This fourth state. What is what if we were gonna put a name? What would you call it
Well,
or define it?
I think the best name for it is crystalline water. It's
Okay.
also, if you're looking it up, Dr. Gerald Pollack discovered it in 2011. He
Okay.
had and other scientists have postulated and things about it before you could actually prove it in a lab was in 2011. And he calls it EZ or exclusionary zone water
Okay.
because it excludes all positive protons, all impurities like ice, and it has a crystalline structure, but it's liquid, and the crystalline structure is in layers. Now, and I started thinking about that, and I looked at a couple areas as I was rereading the Urantia book, and I saw where it talked about the frog. Had the frog not jumped a certain distance, the whole course of evolution would have changed slightly. Would have kept on going, but it would have changed. The life carriers were then watching everything that was going on. Not that they were observing the frog, but the records of every, I believe, and this is what I like to call a hydroview.
Okay.
A hydroview I define as viewpoints predicated on the facts of science, the laws of nature, and the teachings of the Urantia book.
Okay.
So it's a hydroview in that I can't prove everything I say about water is true, but science can't prove it's wrong. The Urantia book doesn't say it's wrong. So God is a hydroview. We can't prove that there's a God. We can't prove that angels exist. There's a whole lot of things in the Urantia book we can't prove with science, but we believe in our hearts and that the magnetism of spirit.
And I like this concept of what you're saying about hydrobuse, and I think it bridges, like you're saying, the empirical knowledge. Like you're saying, the fourth phase of water. And I like the word that you're saying, crystalline, because that takes it to an archetype, that takes it to symbolism, and that takes it to the spirit phase, or the ethereal, beyond the empirical, which is a spiritual symbolism and heals. There's planetary awareness. So I think I mean, that view is interesting, of how you're approaching water.
Well, and from a crystalline factor, because it is a crystalline structure, and interestingly enough, it's a crystalline structure that's fluid, so it surrounds itself around every cell, and in each cell there are like gates and channels that
Okay.
let energy in or let water in, let water out, and that is part of the negative flow that is constantly going on.
You see the flow within the heartbeat. It's valves and chambers, opening. It's sort of the same concept, but applied in a different way. So it's pretty
Yes.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, water is so fascinating, and there's so much that, it does for us and that we haven't discovered. And, I think of the cycles. I've always thought of, how rain, that cycle where it takes water from somewhere to, irrigate at this part of the world, just that system in itself. And I also see, I've always called that the beach is the breath of life. That's where you see the interchange, it's like a breath, it's your breathing. So I really like that. On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.